First of all, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it. I know you do college football playoff projections, and I laughed initially, but I am fascinated by the potential of Army getting the Group of 5 spot. So I want to start there. They do have to beat Notre Dame, but the rest of their schedule is negotiable. I would like to see a completely ranked matchup in the Army-Navy game at the end of the year.
Well, it's possible. I'm actually pulling for Army because there's a weird situation with the American Conference where Army and Navy, they both play Notre Dame. Navy plays them this week. Army plays them in 3 weeks.
Right.
Regardless of that result, they should go undefeated in conference play. And they would meet in the American Championship the first Saturday in December. And the winner of that game could be the highest-ranked Group 5 champ to go to the college football playoff, like you referenced in my bowl projections. However, the week after the rankings and the pairings for the playoff will be announced, Army will then play Navy in their regularly scheduled Army-Navy game that we're so used to seeing every second Saturday of December. So here's the big change. That game will not impact the playoffs. So I don't want Army or Navy to lose. I'm not anti-American, but right. I would love to see the Army-Navy winner of the conference championship game go to the playoff and then lose the following week and not be impacted at all. And then the Boise States and the UNLVs of the world to have an outcry of why are they getting this special treatment? They lost this game. They shouldn't be in the playoffs. So that's kind of what I'm rooting for. I think Army's got a better chance to get in if Boise State does not win the Mountain West.
Right.
They have a huge game Friday at UNLV. Is it likely? No. Is it possible? Yes. But, hey, this year when we've seen, more than 3 touchdown underdogs like Kennesaw State last night win, when we see Vanderbilt, beat Alabama, when we see Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame, I mean, anything's possible in this wild season.
Brett McMurphy at Brett_McMurphy on Twitter, America's college football insider with the Action Network. Agent of chaos, Brett McMurphy. I love it.
Yeah.
I am also interested in chaos. We're seeing chaos in the SEC. So what is going to give here? Yes, Georgia probably is the best team. Texas, I know Texas lost to Georgia, but maybe Texas didn't have real bona fides. Michigan wasn't that good, right, when they beat Michigan. Oklahoma really isn't any good, who just got walloped on their own field by South Carolina, who's not a bad team, but they're not at the upper part of the SEC. So maybe Texas didn't have real bona fides. What's going to give in the SEC? Could you see a 3-loss at-large team out of that league?
It's funny, you ran down the list of SEC teams, and you didn't even name the 2 teams that are undefeated in the league, LSU and Texas A&M.
Right.
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that because, again, the selection committee, it's a beauty contest. That's all it is.
Right.
It's their opinion. You and I can say, look, 3-loss Alabama, 3-loss Tennessee, they deserve to be in, but the committee may think differently, so our opinions don't matter. I think we're going to find out how much strength of schedule matters. And here's an example. Indiana's undefeated right now, having an unbelievable season. They still have to play Ohio State.
Yeah.
Probably going to lose that game. So if they win out, they're 11-1. Lost to Ohio State. I don't think that gets them into the Big Ten title game. So they've got 11 wins against no ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their only game against a ranked opponent. How is the committee going to rank 11-1 Indiana against potentially a 3-loss Tennessee or a 3-loss Alabama that has multiple losses to top 25 teams? Plus, on Alabama's case, a win against one of the top 2 or 3 ranked teams in the country. Who will they consider the better team in that scenario? I have no clue. I think the ACC gets 2 teams in. I think the Big 12 gets 1. the Group 5 gets the other one, so that puts us at 4. And then I think the remaining 8 go to the Big Ten and the SEC in some form or fashion. But, I do think a 3-loss SEC team gets in. I don't know how many. But the one thing that we can go by, and again, it's a different selection committee every year. They say they consider all these different, statistics and
Sure.
the eye test and all this minutia. It'll bore you to death listening to what all it is. Reality is, in the 10-year history of the college football playoff, the only thing that has mattered is the number in the loss column.
Right. Except last year.
The one exception is right. The one exception is Florida State.
Yeah.
When they didn't have a quarterback. So again, we can sit here and say, 3-loss teams getting in, but are they really going to leave out? If it gets down to that's the last at-large spot, 11-1 Indiana versus any 9-3 team, Big Ten, SEC, I don't care who it is, with a stronger strength of schedule, are they really going to leave out a 1-loss Indiana team for a team with 3 losses? I don't think they've got the guts to do it, but we'll find out. But that's a great question, and I think what they decide will impact future schedules of the Big Ten and the SEC going forward, because if they are going to be penalized for playing these tougher schedules, then you're not going to see a Texas-Michigan non-conference game anymore. You're not going to see those high-profile out-of-conference games, and you're going to see them playing, Podunk State again to get that all-important victory.
Brett McMurphy, Action Network, is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. I've been saying this for a long time. They can talk all they want. The only time strength of schedule and who you played in football matters is when it's a tiebreaker or to suit their agenda. It's the only time it ever matters. Is at that point, it's a tiebreaker at the end. The only thing they care about is how many times did you lose? And if the answer is 0, unless you're Florida State, when again last year to me was a vibe, and the PR campaign of we can't have a playoff without a team from the SEC because Alabama should have been the odd team out. Florida State should have gone. Texas beat Alabama. They would have been the other team in. It would have been pretty simple. Penalize Florida State with seeding based on using a second-string quarterback. But they pretended it was going to be the third-string quarterback, again, to suit their agenda, and the fact that it was Alabama. And to
be honest, I think Georgia should have been in the playoff.
Sure,
last
they
year.
were better. They were better than all of them. I agree with you.
I mean, you strictly go by the power ratings. They were. And that's where people get, and I vote in the AP poll, and I try not to do this, but it's difficult. People get locked into, well, the week before, this is how I rated the team,
right?
So this team lost. Like Georgia, so now I've got to drop them. Where if you just said, okay, I'm not going to do any rankings. Now here we are at the end of the season. Georgia's 12-1, Alabama's 12-1, Texas is 12-1, whatever they were, I don't remember. And it's like, okay, let's evaluate the entire season. Then you don't put so much emphasis on a late season loss. So, yeah, there's different ways to do it, but I understand what you're saying.
Brett McMurphy is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. There's 1,000 different questions I could ask you, but I do want to get your take on the those various plans that came out. One was called Project Rudy. There was also a college student football league, or whatever it was called. They were similar in structure but different when you kind of dug into the details. To me, the reason, and Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti both commented, I guess either prior to their joint meetings in Nashville a week or so ago. To me, the reason they won't ever happen is because the SEC and the Big Ten would have to give up their clear economic advantage over the rest of the country in terms of top-level college football. Not for any other reason, because right now, the way it is, they control everything, including how much money other leagues don't get, because there's not enough money out there and there's not enough value in the other leagues. I understand that. But they could even make more money based on these projections. But I think they're more interested in the advantage than they are in the total dollars. Yeah,
they're not going to be. That's why I don't think these things will happen. If they want to do these kind of two power leagues or combine and do each other, they're going to do it themselves. They're not going to hire someone to come in. And that's why and look, people say we need to have a commissioner for college football. That makes a lot of sense, except for one thing, and you brought it up. Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti are not going to hire somebody to be their boss.
Right.
Okay? The SEC is going to do what's best for the SEC. The Big Ten is going to do what's best for the Big Ten. The ACC is going to do what's best for the ACC, and so on. You could say, well, the SEC can't do this because it's going to ruin the rest of college football. I agree with that statement, but also you can't tell the SEC you can't do things because how it's going to impact others. You have to do what's best for yourself. And, this isn't the NFL as much as people want to say it is, because the NFL has 32 teams that work together in a partnership. College football has 9 or 10 different conferences that work independently to do what's best for them and also decide to kind of do things together when they can. But their common goal is not to do what's best for 10 conferences.
Right.
It's to do what's best for the one conference.
Yeah, no, but
so, that's why I don't see this ever happening. The way they're proposing it.
Maybe this is a harsh way of saying it, but Greg Sankey doesn't really care about college football. He cares about the SEC. Same with Tony Petitti.
He cares about college football, but he cares more about the SEC.
Yeah. Brett McMurphy is joining us here. Final question. Best team in the ACC is who?
God. Captain Chaos here. Clemson and SMU all went out. We've got a 3-way tie, 3 undefeated teams. They don't play each other. And they've got a variety of tiebreakers. I'm rooting for the last one where they pull names out of a hat. For this season, I picked Miami to win the ACC. I'll still stick with that, but man, I would not be surprised if Clemson beats them. Everyone gave Clemson up for dead after the loss to Georgia. And at the time, I said, you know what, Georgia just may be that good. And Georgia is that good, not every week, but certain weeks. And Clemson has dominated after that week. They haven't played anybody.
Right. Sure.
They haven't beat a ranked team all year. They'll finish at Pitt, that can be a ranked team.
Sure.
They may finish the season not having beat a ranked team, but they have been very impressive in what they've done. I love Miami. I love Cam Ward. They've had some defensive issues the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'll stick with Miami as my preseason pick, but I would not be shocked if Clemson wins the ACC title and gets one of those first-round byes in the playoffs.
Brett McMurphy, I appreciate your time. America's Chaos Agent, College Football Insider, Action Network at Brett_McMurphy. We'll talk again soon, hopefully.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
You got it. Brett McMurphy here on the Adam Gold Show.